Hey folks, another day here in the shop. Nice Saturday with relatively cool weather here in the Midwest. So over the last couple of weeks I've been obviously working on the Spitfire. This is 2 coats that have not cured yet of Pour 15, which is a epoxy rust converter stuff, rust paint that I really like. Goes on real thick. I've never had it fail. It's kind of a pain in the butt to prep for. You've got to degrease extensively, rinse it, and then neutralize all the rust with some sort of acid that they supply. So I've done the whole floor pan, kind of the rear cargo area, whatever you want to call that, up into the footwells. And I've also done the trunk. I went crazy with it, but I don't really see a point in treating every inch of the interior of the car. Really, this is where the water is gonna pool or collect, and I think that's pretty good. I'll probably still put something inside the doors. I haven't decided if I want to use just a oil-based water displacer. There's several different kinds of that stuff. Or if I want to actually prep and paint in there too. It's just a pain in the butt. And once this stuff gets on you, I mean, it'll take a week to come off. So I've had to be pretty careful about not getting on the paint. But yeah, as you may notice, I don't have a steering wheel or any controls except the accelerator pedal, which is kind of a huge pain to take out. So I pulled all those out. I've already restored them off the other car, so I'm just swapping in the nice stuff when I'm done. I've done a lot of work on the electronics. So right now I've got all the front lights in. I don't have the chrome on the headlights. I think I'm going to buy new chrome for those, because pretty much every one of them I have is a little bit dinged up, and they don't really seat very well if they're not perfect. I swapped out the turn signals. Those should be clear plastic. Well, over here, see those are nice glass lenses. I'm not sure if those should be amber bulbs or not, but I need to read up. This side, I just need to adjust. Those things are kind of a pain. They have these Lucas lights, but I had extras of the glass ones, and I really like the look of them, so I put those on the front. The back, I've got the brake lights on and the turn signals and everything. The only thing I don't have is there's the rear markers and whatnot. I have a license plate light installed. I do have a nice Lucas original one. I'm sure it needs bulbs, but that's no big deal. But this car wasn't drilled for a license plate light. So I've got to measure off the other car and see exactly where that should go and drill it. It's not a big deal. And I think I mentioned before, I don't have a place for bumpers. I'm pretty sure the rear clip on this car has been replaced at some point. There's some crinkling kind of in there and in there. They did a pretty good job of it, so I'm not really worried about it. I've got the fuel tank installed. I need to run new lines. The fuel tank plumbing is different between this and the silver car, so I can't make them work with each other. So I've got new brake line, which is what that is, 1/4 inch brake line. I might run new fuel lines, or I may adapt it. I don't know. The binnacle, the dash is still in this car. I did fix all the new switches and stuff, except for I don't have a good heater switch that goes in that center location. But that's like a $15 part or something. It's not bad. Still haven't installed the windshield yet. It's been kind of nice not having it. Like I said, I'm gonna put in the black frame from the other car for now, because it's already got glass and seals installed. And then when I had some extra time and money, I'll swap the whole thing back out for the right one, for this one. I don't think it'll be all that noticeable that it has a black frame. I'm not sure what color they were originally, but I've got to put the front bumpers on. I've got, like I said, there's some wiring in there. I've gone through pretty much every connector on the car that I can get to, except for the dash and some of the stuff on the engine, and clean them all up. It uses these stupid, there you are, these are bullet connectors. uses, this is the union, and then I don't know where one is, but it uses these really annoying bullet connectors that need a really expensive crimper to install. So I've been soldering them all, which is time consuming. I've got the wire harness pulled out from the trunk right now. So there's no connectivity from the front of the car to the back right now. There's just like 6 wires. There's not a whole lot of electronics to this car, obviously. I think I mentioned I got the trunk lid installed. It still needs latches and weather stripping and all that. That's probably the next big purchase, is going to be a couple of $300 worth of weather stripping. It's kind of a pain to figure out what you need. The sites that I'm finding just don't really tell you what you need. I do need to, these are going to show, these are the top mounting locations on this side and this side. I don't know why I didn't do those with port 15 while I had it out, but whatever, I'll deal with that later. The rest of it will be covered with trim, I think. I'm gonna put sound deadener in the entire car. It's like Dynamat, it's just a cheaper version of that. I'll have it here in a few days. Car is still leaning. I haven't switched out the suspension, which will have the new tires on it when I swap all that. I just haven't had time or energy to go over to the location B where my other car is to get the suspension. The shop is, as always, a mess. I cleaned it up actually last weekend, I think. But yeah, we're getting there. The goal is to have the car drivable by the end of August. I think that's pretty reasonable to be able to go get it registered. I won't have I won't have windows and a top and all that stuff, and it won't have an interior other than seats. I think I've settled. There's not really a lot of color choices for the interiors of these. Since this was a red car, it had a tan interior. I don't really like. I don't know. If the car was black or silver, it would be an all red interior. There's no question. But I think what I'm going to do, because I'm going to have some contrast of the red parts of the door and the red dash, I think I'm going to do black carpets and then red seats and door cards and all that. I think that'll look pretty nice. That's going to be a pretty sizable expenditure of money, as in about what this car cost to put a new interior in it, but that's okay. We'll get it. Just be a year or so maybe. Still got to put some trim on. Yeah, I think that's about it. Like I said, it's just been a lot of wiring. I've got the other instrument cluster from the silver car, and I think I'm going to grab it today while I'm waiting on paint to dry. And this is a kind of cool lab grade DC power supply, variable. I think it can do, yeah, it is 30 volts, so I can get 12 out of it. And that'll let me test all of the instruments. When I pulled the steering column, I went ahead. This is, I think, the turn signal switch. This car came with a good one, the other car didn't. Actually, this is the one out of the other car. Or this is the, anyway. Between the two cars, I have one of each switch. I had to rebuild them. These contacts, as you can see, inside there were nasty. This is obviously not the one I use because the arm is broken, but I took them apart as best I could. Oh, here's those roller connectors. So every one of these gets, if I replace them, they get soldered on. I think these were all crimped from the factory and maybe a little bit of solder added, but I don't have the right crimpers and I don't want to spend $135 because I could buy a new harness for $150. Actually, this is the rear harness. So this was 2 harnesses that I merged together. The front half came out of this car, and then I stripped down the other one and extended it. It's probably way longer than I need, but it'll have to pass through the right or the left rear fender and up to the front of the car. And you can see I labeled everything. I ran out of heat shrink labels, so I just used these, and I think they're fine. And then this is where I spliced it. Again, I labeled everything. I labeled most of it. I might have missed a few. But that's the splices, and I'm going to put something different there, and maybe even add a label, because I want this to be future-proof. So in the future, when me or some other poor soul works on this car and it has problems, they can know to look right there. It'll be kind of obvious that there's something different there. Same idea as using a junction box in the house wiring. This is all the steering column stuff. There's two sets of it. There's some of those connectors. Probably gonna have to buy more of those. I took some of these parts from the other car just because those were easier to get to or whatever, and sandblasted them and painted them all. I couldn't get the steering wheel off of this car. It was just rusted in place really badly. So even with the puller, I was just soldering it, which is not a huge deal because the old one, I didn't want that steering wheel. It was ugly. But I have a nicer steering wheel. Actually, we can go take a look in here. This is my parts depot / mess. I'm gonna take the trash out, but it's really hot. I don't want to open the garage door. So there's the original steering column up there with the steering wheel still attached. Here's the outside of the new column and the inside, and then somewhere in here, I don't know where, there's a steering wheel that I like. It's a little bit smaller. It's not as nice looking as some of the ones I would like. Oh, here it is. This is the steering wheel I'm going to use. I've already cleaned it up some with some Scotch-Brite and leather cleaner. I like that one a lot. That was installed in the red car, or the silver car. The dash panel's up there still. I've got to install that. I got to put the heater in. Basically, I'm in reassembly mode now. There really shouldn't be any more taking stuff apart, except for the suspension, which I've just got to bolt on. But yeah, here's this is a little binnacle that was, I think, above. I don't remember how this all goes, but I cleaned all that stuff up. There's some new line for the fuel pipe, suspension stuff that I already cleaned up off the other car. I didn't reassemble the entire suspension on that car when I moved it over here, so I've got lots to do. I still think I'm going to rewire this car at some point, probably before I put the whole interior in it, but it doesn't need it right now. Yeah, this is my parts depot. It's a mess. There's a battery. I need to take that back. That's a core charge. That's the battery that came in the silver car. There's the dash. I think it's called the radio tower. I've already painted that up. Nothing crazy. I am going to do a wooden dash for this car. I just don't have the wood I want to use yet. I found some I really liked, but I couldn't afford it at the time, and it kind of all sold out, so I got to find something else that I want. It'll be some sort of exotic burl, because I only need a half of a square foot of the stuff. It's not like it matters how expensive it is. There's the lower air dam from this car, and that's the bumper override from the front of my Mercedes. It fell off, and I reinstalled it once and it fell off again, and I really don't care right now. This car is enough. So this is the problem area in my shop, really. The workbenches I can clean off, but this area, this is a whole car worth of parts here, basically, other than the big stuff. So like this whole bin is stuff that is going to go over to location B because I don't need it. It's stuff that I have extras of, or I've pulled off, or doesn't fit, or whatever. All that stuff is going to go on sale at some point if it's worth anything to anybody. I've got new seat belts. Oh yeah, that was a nightmare. I had to pull the seat belts. This car uses, well, Spitfires all had optional seat belts, and they were held in by these eye bolts. And as you can see, that's pretty chewed up. Focus. But they're not held into bolts, they're welded on, they're held on with, they thread into weld nuts, so they're welded at the floor. And that's the hole where those were before. Once this paint cures, I will tap all those points. That's the point right there for the inner bolt, and then there'll be one that goes on the fender. I don't know exactly where, because I'm putting 3-point belts in here, nice retracting ones. I do have a nicer emergency brake handle. Just didn't get to it. Transmission is still pretty nasty. I've got a bag over the shifter. I had the shifter off. It was not installed when I got this car, and I've already rebuilt the other one, but I just haven't gotten around to installing it. It's kind of going to be in the way when I install some stuff under the dash. So the better accessibility I have, the better life is going to be. But yeah, I think everything back here is going to be completely concealed except for those points where the seat belts or the hardtop bolt in or clip in or whatever, soft top, whichever. I've got both. I've got a really nice hardtop, I think I've mentioned, and I've got a soft top frame and a pretty crappy soft top. So at some point I'll probably buy a soft top for it and recondition the frame. But yeah, I'm thrilled with this car. It's not perfect. I could do a lot of the same rust repairs I did on the other car to this, but there's floors. There's pinholes in the floors. And up there, I don't know how well that'll show now. That's kind of the point of this paint also, to hide the sins of the previous owners. But up there is a lot of patches, and that whole inner sill is wrong. There's a lot of Bondo on it, and I'm just gonna ignore it. That cross member is wrong too, but if I start doing that, I'm gonna end up at the exact same point I was with the other car, and since this one has paint, I'm not doing that. So I've got some cool epoxy by the same 415, the same people that make this stuff, that is like a putty. And I'll probably take all these little pinholes, you can kind of see them in the corner, and putty those up. It does look like I need to take a brush. This paint goes on really thick, but it flows out really well. So wherever I've gotten a little overzealous, you can see that's a puddle. I'll just brush that out while it's still wet. No big deal. And it looks like I might have missed some spots up there, so I'll take some of that. But that stuff is nasty. It doesn't come off of anything, so this should be it. Starting to reassemble next, and then maybe drive. Still have to tune the engine, still have all the suspension work to do, but I don't have to do any cleaning or anything like that other than what's on the car. Front bumpers, rear bumper maybe. It does look kind of cool with that one, but it also looks pretty cool with one. Paint. Need to polish all the paint, clay bar and polish, and see if somebody can take that dent out a little bit for me. But yeah, the headlights do work, turn signals and stuff. The switches are just bad, so I've got to, now that I've rebuilt those, I've got to reinstall them. Anywho, there's no body fasteners or body latches, so I've got trunk and both sides of the hood and both doors. That's just a lot of reassembly, but the nice thing is I restore everything before I reassemble it, so it goes on a lot quicker in a lot of cases than it came off. So, all right, well, stay cool out there, folks. Stay safe, stay indoors, and away from the stupid people that won't wear masks. Later.